If you like your cars compact, electric, affordable, and bursting with character, then you're going to really like the subject of today's video. This is Inside China Auto, and this is the iCar V23. Yes, this is the iCar V23, a super cool, very chunky, compact off-roader. I've been dying to drive this car since we first saw it last year, but getting hold of one has not been easy. Quick rant incoming. I spoke to people at Chery, which is the parent company of iCar and the biggest exporter of cars from China for the last 20 plus years. They spoke to iCar and they wouldn't even add me on WeChat. They said we don't talk to international media. Now, for a company whose website is iCarglobal.com and who actually export their 03 model as a Jaecoo J6 to other markets, to not even have a conversation with China-based international media is super poor relations. So if you're from Chery and you're watching this, do better. But I'm not going to let that color the review of this car. It's going to be judged on its own merits. I've rented it so that we can do a review today. And we'll start with the design. It looks absolutely fabulous. I love the way that they've managed to blend kind of historical details with more modern off-road kind of design traits as well. And you see nods to a few famous off-roaders in the design around this car. Starting with the face, we've got these big comical circular eyes, narrow set in the middle, and then this kind of stacked rounded dome-shaped bonnet. This is a nod to the BAW 212, a really famous historic off-roader car from China. It only stopped being produced about 2 years ago, and they've now got a new brand called 212, making a modern reinterpretation of it. But iCar has borrowed that design influence at the front. It looks very cool, quite iconic, quite cute. This is, to be honest, probably going to be the coolest car that we review in 2025, unless something comes and blows it out the water. Maybe its brother, the X25, for example, which I'm hoping will come out this year. But as well as the face, you've also got very boxy shapes. So you've got this really steeply raked windscreen, about 70 degrees. Looks a bit like a G-Class. Lots of square design across here. You've got kind of fat frame windows too. Again, look a bit like a G-Class. Very boxy design. And then at the back, it really looks a lot like a modern Land Rover Defender. But we'll come on to that when we get back there. But elsewhere, you can see there's a lot of unique features about this car as well. And one of them are these modules, these black modules here on top of the dashboard, or the bonnet, I should say. And they're modular, so you can literally pop that off and put a spotlight on there, so you can do nighttime off-roading in this car. And there's a lot more modular features inside that I'll talk about when we get there as well. This side, by the way, this is just access to your windscreen washer fluid in there. And that's because this big bonnet can't be opened. There's no way to get in there. There's no frunk. There's no access to anything else. So I don't know what's in there, but we can't get in. Simple as that. But elsewhere, we do have massive 19-inch wheels. Really cool, by the way. Flat face design, look kind of like Steelies, but they're alloys. And you can see they're right out in the corner as well. By the way, these are 19. You can get 21-inch versions on the dual motor version of this car, which for a car that is only 4.2 meters long is ridiculous. It's absolutely massive. Bear in mind, by the way, 4.2 meters long means this is a lot bigger than a Suzuki Jimny. So while it might look like an electric Jimny rival, it's a lot bigger. But let's talk again about those off-road credentials. Super short overhangs. That means at the front, you've got a 43-degree approach angle. At the back, you get a 41-degree departure angle. And you've got 21 centimeters of ground clearance too. So you can genuinely do real off-roading in the iCar V23, probably more so in the dual motor version compared to this one, which is the single motor version. Other cool features, your NFC pad is on here, so you can get into the car with your card there. You can also do it on your phone if you want to. We've got black mirrors, but these are a bit crap. They are portrait style. I'll come on to those when we get to the driving section. We get a footrail, that's standard on all versions of the car to help you get in. It is quite a tall car to get into. Cool pop-out door handles there, do like those. And then we've got kind of a blacked out C-pillar here, which does make visibility a little bit difficult, but again, more V23 details and a few Easter eggs. I'm going to point these out around the car, one of which is this little iCar logo here in the windscreen. I'll show you more as we find them. At the back again, you can see influences from other cars, particularly back here, the G-Class and the Land Rover Defender. Bear in mind, by the way, that Chery actually produced Land Rovers in China, and they're not afraid of borrowing design language from Land Rover in their own products. So for here, for example, you can see we've got a gently rounded rear corner. That's very much like the Defender. And then they've got an asymmetrical design. So on this part here, kind of a large box. On this part, two smaller boxes. They look like cutouts for the Land Rover Defender lights. I'm not sure why they've made it asymmetrical, but there you go. Down here, you've got kind of G-Wagon style lights, horizontal, right out on the edge, little small lights again, really quite cool. And then we've got this box on the back here. This is not accessible from the outside, but is accessible from the inside. You've got a third level brake light in there and some more V23 details and iCar Born to Play on there. And then we get a side hinged rear boot lid. And in here, not entirely sure how much space because iCar don't tell us, but you can fold down the rear seats completely flat, base cushion up, seat down, 744 litres, they go down 50-50. You also get an extra 80 litres of space under the boot floor as well. You get a mesh net pocket in there for more storage, mesh net here with things for bottles and stuff, and then another pocket here, as I mentioned, with deep space in there for other things that you want to stick in the back of your car. So it's a fairly practical design, this useful amount of space, not massive, but for a compact car it's pretty decent. And one final Easter egg, just here in the glass we've got a little iCar driving up the ramp over the boot. Let's go and check out that modular interior. Inside, the V23 is every bit as cool as it is outside, and the designers have really gone to town, hiding little funky design details in here, the kind of thing that young fashionable people are really going to like, and they're kind of planted all over the place. So I'm just going to walk around this cabin and reveal them as we go along. There's not a lot of spec in here, but there's still a lot to talk about, so I'll get straight into it. I'll start with the vents. You'll see we've got two vents on my side, two on your side with yellow accents on there, and then three here across the middle. So 7 individually controllable vents in the front. They're really quite funky and again quite retro styled. And then more retro styled dials down here. They look metallic, they're not real metal, but they look metal for your volume, your temperature and your fan speed. Then you've got these cool toggle switches down at the bottom as well. They're quite good, and these little kind of metal style details there. So it does look very retro in here as well. Big chunky drive mode selector too, with the V23 Easter egg in there. That's number 3 so far around the car. Physical switches there, also up here on the roof, so you get some kind of toggle switches for your interior lights. You also get aux 1 and aux 2, and I've spent 5 minutes looking around the car trying to work out what they do, and I haven't worked it out, but I think it might be for the modular stuff that I was telling you about earlier. So one of the things you can do is, you'll see there's no screen here behind the steering wheel. We've only got this big one in the middle, no head-up display. So you can get a kind of circular screen that plugs in here for your speed and for some other little small features as well. You can also get on here, where you've got this tray, you've got screws there. You can screw out and put a phone holder that comes over the top of your screen there. We've also got screws up here in the roof where you can screw in a screen for the passengers in the back to watch entertainment. So I think these might be for controlling different things like that. iCar have buried a few different things you can do inside this car. As well as all the physical controls, it's really quite a pleasant interior, to be honest with you. Very upright and adjunct. You see the dashboard is really short, so we're quite close to that window there. But we've got Cortico leather all over, so black stuff on top, white stuff on the rest of the surfaces here, and soft stuff in the doors. We've got painted silver plastic there. Feels a bit cheap, but looks pretty cool, I have to say. And your window switches and your mirror controls on there as well. Your steering, by the way, is manually adjustable, but only 2-way. Only for tilt angle. You don't get any reach adjustment on it, which honestly is a bit disappointing, but when you find out how affordable this car is, I'll come on to that in the driving section, you might understand why they've kind of cut that little bit out, although I do think you probably need a little bit more reach adjustment on there. But yeah, apart from that, lovely leather steering wheel, square design. We've got another little Easter egg just behind the dashboard there, a V23 logo, that's 4. And one other thing, we've also got manual headlamp adjustment here. I don't think I've seen that on any Chinese car ever. So that's quite an interesting thing on this lower, kind of more affordable version of the car, that they make that manual. It is, of course, automatic on the more expensive versions of the car. We get as well a camera up here. You can turn your driving recorder on with a button there. You get a center console with space in the middle, 2 USB-C sockets in there. And then you would think that this is a wireless phone charger. It's not. Instead, you get a little hole there. You can put your cables through and you can charge your phone on the kind of the phone holder, but it's not wireless. That's one thing, again, I think could be quite nice if it was wireless. We get a useful space down here. You can pop out these dividers, so make the gaps bigger or smaller as you wish. Let me just slide that back in there again. So you can make kind of 3 cup holders in there if you want to. You get 7 speakers on all versions of the car, 2 in the door, 2 up on the top there, 2 in the back, and then 1 big one under the dashboard as well. Notice no glove box in this car, and instead of real door pockets, they've gone for these mesh nets with the yellow piping kind of elastic band on there, which is cool. I like them. I like mesh nets in the doors. They're sometimes quite useful. Another little detail, born to play, iCar design, little metal plate on there. Looks really quite funky as well. You get airbags in the front as well and in the side, so you get the protection that you need from this car. You'll notice no panoramic roof, and none of the versions come with a panoramic roof. Seats, you do get heating on these, and actually these are really comfortable, by the way. They're only 6-way adjustable for the driver, 4-way for the passenger. No lumbar support on these, but nevertheless, as I said, they are quite comfortable. You get good height adjustment, so you can find a good driving position, and it is quite upright. You do feel very high up in this car. It does feel a bit like the Fangchong Bao B5 that we drove, the Denza B5. You feel quite high up, like you're in control of things, but visibility is a question I'll come on to in the driving section. And as well as all that, of course, we do have a 15.4-inch screen here in the middle. This isn't the most flexible screen. You don't get kind of an adjustable toolbar at the bottom down there, but you can get to your music pretty quick. You get to all your driving functions in here, and there are not many. I'll come on to that in the driving section. No ambient lighting, by the way, either on this car. And in here, you get an off-road mode, so you can see the pitch angle and the roll angle of your car, your tire pressures and the temperature of them, the direction you're going in, and something that says 36 meters. Not entirely sure what that one's for, but yeah, if you want to do real off-roading, you get all the kind of the funky details in there as well. It's a good screen. Runs the Snapdragon 8155 processor, which isn't the fastest one that's on the market available right now, but still pretty good. So you can see here for this kind of 3D model, you can whiz around there very nicely. So again, a good screen. And by the way, you can plug in a Nintendo Switch onto this, so you can play a Nintendo Switch on the screen if you want to. Again, another little bonus about this car. Also, chunky grab handles just for your off-road stuff, and that's pretty much it for the front. One thing I would like is if this could slide forwards and backwards, so maybe in a kind of a future version of this car they could make this kind of more modular, more flexible. I think you can take this out, but I haven't been able to do so. There's an open switch down there and it doesn't do anything. Oh, one other thing, by the way, you also get pockets under the front seats. You got to lift those out. You get a pocket down there so you can put stuff under your front seats as well, a bit like in an old Renault Scenic. So yeah, very cool, very funky, and the back seats are not that bad either as well. Hey, thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to click the subscribe button down below so that you can see more cars like this in your timeline. And if you want more news from the Chinese car industry, go to InsideChinaAuto.com. Back to the video. The great news for passengers in the back of the V23 is that there is loads of space back here. So this front seat is as low as it'll go. I've got loads of footroom down there, masses of knee room. You see my thigh is flush to the seat because the seats are quite tall. Loads of headroom as well. And it's really comfortable because this is a true 4-seater. Because this rear bench is split 50-50, you get a proper base cushion and a proper backrest for 4 people. You can turn it into a 5-seater if you want to. There's a seat belt up in the roof and buckles that can pop out down here, but as a 4-seater, really very comfortable seating position here. Now, as you can see, you can pop open the base cushion there and fold down the rear seat like that. You can't do that on most Chinese cars. They don't have the flip forward base cushion, which is interesting, but there you go. You do get your ISOFIX mountings. They're a bit difficult to get to on this. They're buried down there under the cushion, so if you've got a hefty car seat, you're not going to appreciate that too much. As well as that, we get our mesh pockets here in the back for storage and on the back of the front seats with the yellow accent, so really quite cool. We get screw points here, so you can do modular accessories like a cup holder on the back of the front seat because we don't get an armrest or any cup holders here, so you can screw those on if you want to, plus you've got that screen you can have up there as well. Now, we don't get a USB-C socket, we get a little kind of pocket here and then a little slot down there from the central cubby, so you can put a USB cable into the back, but it's from the front, so no separate rear sockets. You also get another V23 little logo there. So it's really comfortable. Chunky handles as well. Our windows go all the way down in the back as well, as you can see, which is really good. This is quite a high armrest, so I do like the kind of comfort of that. One thing to mention though, you get front airbags and you get side airbags. What you don't get is curtain airbags. So for some people, that might be a bit of a loss. I think if this car does go to international markets, they might have to consider putting some of those in there. So the only thing I'd say is that it is a bit darker in here because we don't get the panoramic roof, but in the white interior, it looks absolutely lovely, super spacious, quite practical, lovely interior. As I mentioned before, the V23 kind of feels like a small toy that grew up to become a real boy. And that's something that's very much reflected in the driving experience, because despite this car's compact dimensions, you do sit very high up. You've got a very commanding driving position, which gives you a good view of the road and makes you feel like you're driving a real off-road SUV, a proper high-up car. And some people who do like to drive high up and get a good view of the road will really appreciate that in the V23. It's not without its drawbacks though in terms of visibility. So that blacked out C-pillar does mean that you get a massive blind spot on your right corner, particularly when you're driving across a bike lane where you often get scooters in China coming up the inside. That makes it very difficult to see those people coming up the inside. At the same time, you've got these portrait style side mirrors, which are absolutely rubbish because they really narrow your field of vision. And as I said, give you a massive blind spot where you can't see what is coming. You have to take a lot more care when you're going across those lanes to make sure you don't inadvertently wipe out a cyclist or a person on a scooter, for example. Now, as well as that, visibility is good, but positioning the car is fairly difficult because the bonnet is a lot narrower than the actual body of the car. And then you've got additional 5-inch wheel arches on both sides as well. So it's hard to work out where the edge of the car actually is. And in the non-intelligent driving versions, you don't get a 360-degree camera, so you can't use the benefit of that either. The standard versions, which we have, only come with 8 ultrasonic sensors for parking and 1 reverse camera and 1 camera here for recording your driving. If you get the intelligent driving version, you get 12 ultrasonic sensors, 5mm wave radars, and 5 cameras, which gives you much more options, including blind spot assist as well, and door opening warning and things like that. So we're kind of flying a little bit blind in our car. Now, that big car driving experience, well, I mean, the car's kitted out for it. You've got McPherson struts on the front, 5-link independent suspension on the rear. It's not always that helpful. The overall driving experience is very comfortable. The steering is light with a relatively decent amount of feel. It's got a great turning circle because the wheels are right out in the corner, so a really tight turning circle. It's very maneuverable, but on harsh surfaces, when you get big bumps in the road, it does feel choppy. You feel quite a bit of that come through the cabin. It also has a bit of roll, so I mean, if you weave the car a bit, because you're high up, you'll get a bit of movement. It actually makes it fairly sporty and quite enjoyable to drive, but as I said, you do notice the lack of ride quality, the smoothness, compared to a lot of other Chinese cars that we drive that glide over a lot of those surfaces. So the bargain price point on this does come with some drawbacks. In terms of the overall powertrain, we get a choice of 2. We have the rear-wheel drive version with a single motor, 100 kilowatts on the back, 180 newton meters of torque. If you go for the dual motor version, you get an additional 55 kilowatt motor on the front axle with 112 newton meters of torque for 155 kilowatts in total and 292 newton meters of torque. It's not the fastest thing in the world, so much so that iCar quote the 0 to 100 as 0 to 50. So 0 to 50 in the single motor versions is 4.8 seconds. And in the dual motor versions is 3.5 seconds. Now, I would say the car actually does feel quite brisk at low speeds. So if you need to accelerate quickly, it'll do that even in the single motor version. It really starts to struggle more at high speed. So when you're trying to go from like 120 to 130 kilometers per hour, that's when you need to put a lot more squeeze on the pedal, really get a bit more juice out of those motors to try and help you make up that 10 kilometer per hour difference. So it's great for urban driving, less great for highway driving. That also is the case with the ADAS system. So on this one, we don't get anything other than cruise control. You don't even get lane keeping assist. So it can get quite tiring driving this car on the motorway. If you have the intelligent driving version with all the cameras and sensors, you can do adaptive cruise control, you can do lane keeping assist, and you can do lever activated lane changes as well. But we haven't been able to test that because our car doesn't have it. Now, in terms of batteries, you get a choice of 3. The smallest one is a 47 kilowatt hour battery. Will give you 301 kilometers of range on CLTC. The medium size one that we have is 60 kilowatt hours. That will get you 401 kilometers of range on CLTC. Both of those are LFP batteries. The largest battery is an 82 kilowatt hour battery. That was on the dual motor versions only. Will get you 501 kilometers of range, and that one is an NMC style battery. Now, in terms of energy consumption, the smaller versions, the single motor versions, should get either 16.4 or 16.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers per hour. In urban settings, as we've been driving today, we've been averaging 13.4. So we're beating that by quite a margin in urban settings. The reason that number is fairly high is because on the highway, the range goes down quite considerably and quickly, almost visually. It's that bad. So it's really more of a car for urban driving, this one, far less so for driving on the highway. You'll see the range really capitulate when you're driving at high speeds on this, which is one of the downsides of the V23. In terms of, oh, by the way, all of those charge from 30 to 80% in 30 minutes or less. In terms of prices though, this car is super affordable. The cheapest version, which comes with cloth seats and misses out on all the sensors, that one starts at just 99,800 RMB, which is about £11,000 or about $15,000, which is incredible. Super low price, not much more expensive than a BYD Seagull, and yet you get considerably more car for your money. The prices then go up to 149,800 RMB for the dual motor version with the intelligent driving package. So again, about 16,000, 17,000 pounds, about $20,000, $21,000. So it's really super affordable. You get a lot of car for your money with that. And I've actually seriously been considering getting one of these as maybe a second car after I get the Zeekr Mix, or even maybe getting one for my mother-in-law because she needs a new car, and this would be an ideal one for her. It's compact enough for her to drive and comes with all the space that she needs for her stuff. So, I mean, I would seriously consider it over a Seagull. I really, really like it. It's probably one of the funkiest cars that we've driven by far. It looks amazing and it's fun to drive. Yes, it does come with some shortfalls, as you might expect, but on the whole, really a lot of car for your money. And I do hope that this one goes abroad. If it does, it'll probably go as a Jaecoo. I expect that it will to some markets. We'll have to see which ones those will be as and when they announce them. But yeah, really grown-up car this. Very funky. Love it. So that's it for our review of the iCar V23. Without a doubt, one of the coolest cars that I have ever driven. This thing is just dripping in character. It looks absolutely amazing. It's got a lovely, comfortable, quite practical interior. It's efficient as an urban runabout. And did I say that it just looks absolutely amazing? It's not without its drawbacks. It's got some visibility issues. Ride quality isn't great. But for the price you're paying, I can't think of anything that is better for driving around a city than this. It might even be better than a BYD Seagull. I certainly wouldn't mind having one of these in my driveway. I think iCar have nailed it, and if they can sort out their media relations, they might just go somewhere. Anyway, that's it for our video today. Thank you very much for watching. If you do, thank you for subscribing. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up so more people can see the great cars coming out of China. And as ever, we'll catch you next time.